Right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching from. Welcome to the second in the series of informational webinars being presented by the Pittsburgh Regional Alliance. I'm Mike Henderson, Senior Director of Business Investment, and I'm joined by my colleague Linda Topolewski, Vice President of Talent Strategy and Programs. Just a word about the Pittsburgh Regional Alliance. We're a marketing and economic development organization for the 10-county Southwest Pennsylvania region. And today we're going to be talking about our advantages for the logistics and transportation sector. As we go through the slides, if you have questions, please use the Ask Questions, the Q&A button on the screen, and we'll get to those questions at the end. So let's dive into it. We've got several of our participants are now online, and we'll get ahead and go on with the show here. So we're going to talk a little bit about Pittsburgh in general, and then why Pittsburgh is becoming an up-and-coming location, how it's becoming a more dynamic location, especially in technology and so on. Talk about our infrastructure for transportation, our real estate assets, and then we'll get into some workforce and livability issues. This is Pittsburgh. This is a shot of downtown Pittsburgh. We're home to all kinds of industries: banking, finance, manufacturing, technology, and we're becoming a more open and innovative location for companies excited about growth. And we want you to join us here in Pittsburgh. We're a 10-county region, as I mentioned. We're in the southwest corner of Pennsylvania. We have a total population of about 2.6 million people, about a workforce of 1.3 million people, almost 500,000 millennials, the 25 to 39 age group population. And we are in an affordable location to live. Median home price is about $155,000, which is very attractive to people coming from higher cost locations. What's going on in Pittsburgh? There's a lot going on. We're becoming a growing logistics and distribution center. We're already a leading innovation hub and have a tremendous global startup ecosystem here. A lot of companies are coming in here for the innovation that's going on here. We are one of the leaders in autonomous vehicle research and design. And we actually have related more to transportation, again, we have a cluster of rail system design and research firms. So a well-rounded economy and with a good emphasis on a lot of the transportation sectors. Some of the thriving industries in Pittsburgh. In addition to manufacturing, we've always had history of manufacturing, but now we're in advanced manufacturing, additive manufacturing. We're also big now in autonomous vehicles and robotics. We have tech and AI, machine learning, fintech, cybersecurity. We're a big energy producer. We're on top of the Marcellus Shale and Utica Shale fields. So there's a lot going on in the energy sector, not only taking that energy out of the ground, but then using it to produce other materials. Life sciences, we've always been a big life sciences hub. The University of Pittsburgh is one of the leading life sciences universities in the world, and there's a lot of life sciences research that goes on here. Headquarters locations for companies such as PNC Bank, Bank of New York Mellon, which is the co-headquarters here, PPG, Wabtec, Alcoa, all kinds of major headquarters here. And what we're going to talk about a little bit more today is on the logistics and transportation sector. So in logistics, we're home, as I mentioned, to 2.6 million consumers. We're served by the four main modes of transportation: road, rail, air, and water. And within 500 miles, we are within 500 miles of 136 million people in just the United States. Doesn't include the population in Canada, which is within the 500-mile radius. And also we have a lot of great transportation services that connect the Pittsburgh region to the ports on the East Coast and the Gulf Coast. I mentioned our access. We're sort of a bridge between the Middle Atlantic and the Midwest. So as companies are looking to serve those two locations, those two regions, we're between the two of them. So we're ideally situated to reach those locations in those regions. Within the 500 miles, we cover about 45% of the total US retail sales and 23 of the top 50 US metropolitan retail markets. So we're in the middle of a huge retail center. Here's the map just kind of showing where we are in Southwest Pennsylvania. As I mentioned, within 500 miles of cities such as New York, Philly, Washington, Baltimore, Charlotte, Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, and Toronto. So we're ideally situated to reach a huge segment of the US and Canadian population. One of the things we like to focus on or promote is our safe operating environment. We are, as you can see on this map, we are in a region that is not prone to major natural disasters. We don't have earthquakes. We're outside the hurricane zones and flooding zones. Tornadoes are pretty rare. So we like to promote this region as a place that you can operate a business without a fear of being disrupted by natural disasters. Let's get into the transportation infrastructure. I mentioned the 4 modes of transportation that we have here. And as I've mentioned, we have international domestic flights. We are an inland port. We have an interstate highway system. We're close to the major metros and international markets, natural resources, such as I mentioned, the shale industry in particular. So we have a lot of great benefits for the logistics and transportation sector. On the air side, Pittsburgh International Airport is our large airport, our international airport. It's been recognized in Air Transport World Airport of the Year in 2017. One of the most innovative companies from Fast Company World magazine in 2020, based on the innovation that's going on at the airport in terms of microgrids and development of the airport. The airport prior to the pandemic was serving about 60 destinations from a dozen different carriers. We hit all the major US hubs, and also we had flights to London and Frankfurt. Some of those flights have been put on hold for now until the traffic returns, but we're hoping to get back to our regular pre-pandemic levels after that. About 170 flights a day, weekday, pre-pandemic. We still have quite a number of flights, not as many as before, but we're still a pretty solid air base to reach all parts of the country. We have a significant air cargo capacity. FedEx and UPS have big operations here. Qatar Airways and Cathay Pacific also have cargo services here. The airport is a foreign trade zone number 33. And one unique feature of the airport is what's called Neighborhood 91. It's an on-airport development project, and it's targeting technology firms, especially in additive manufacturing. So it's becoming a 3D printing and additive manufacturing hub for the region here. We already have a couple of commitments from companies to open facilities there, and development is right now underway and constructing the first new buildings on the airport for that Neighborhood 91. On the water side, we have 3 navigable rivers, and you may know the Monongahela and the Allegheny rivers combined meet at the foot of the city of Pittsburgh and create the Ohio River. So we have navigation all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. The Port of Pittsburgh is the nation's 4th busiest inland port, according to recent statistics. So there's a lot of barge traffic coming through here. Some of the major commodities are coal, which is about half of the commodity load on the barges. Also chemicals, aggregates, petroleum, and so on. So it's a great asset to have here to be able to ship goods and commodities up and down the rivers. We've also had a couple of big infrastructure projects, such as the Shell ethane cracker plant. They use barges to ship some of their largest structures to the plant by barge, offloaded it right onto the site. So that's another great advantage to having the rivers here, the navigable rivers here. On the roadside, we're served by the Interstates 70, 79, 76, which is Pennsylvania Turnpike. Interstate 80, Interstate 68 are nearby, north and south. We have three interior interstate connectors, and we have a new southern beltway that's partially open and under construction. That's Interstate 576. It's going to head from the airport down to Interstate 79 in Washington County. That project is partially open now, and the first section is open. The second section is under construction as we speak. We also have several limited access divided highways throughout the region. So where there's not an interstate highway directly, we have a lot of 4-lane divided highways that connect other parts of the region. So it allows for high-speed truck access to get to those interstates. On the rail side, we're served by main lines of the CSX and Norfolk Southern Railroads. We have another Class 1, the Canadian National Railroad, which owns the Bessemer and Lake Erie Railroad. And we have several short line railroads here. Two of our companies, Carload Express and Genesee and Wyoming, own and operate short line railroads in the region. And those are great feeder railroads into the Class 1s. They provide great service to some of our localities and buildings and businesses to connect to the major rail lines. So we're thrilled to have them here. Since we're talking about transportation, I should mention the transit connectivity that we have here. The Pittsburgh, the Port Authority here operates bus and light rail service over a 775 square mile region, nearly 7,000 transit stops and 95 bus routes. There's a 26-mile light rail line that runs from the North Shore, where the sports stadiums are, through downtown Pittsburgh and into the South Hills neighborhoods, the suburbs. So we have park and ride lots that help serve the light rail and the bus routes, with more than 14,000 parking spaces. There are other bus services from the outer counties. They also come into downtown Pittsburgh to help commuters to not have to drive into downtown. Also kind of unique is here we have 3 busways. Those are bus dedicated routes that come in from the suburbs into the downtown area that allow buses to bypass some of the tunnels and bridges in the downtown area and provide a much faster commuting time to get into work. Some of the companies, we just got a couple of case studies here. Amazon has opened a 1 million square foot fulfillment center in Findlay Township, which is out near the airport, with 800 plus employees. And they already operate 2 additional sorting and distribution facilities in the region. And they recently leased another 260,000 square foot building in the Lawrenceville neighborhood, which is within the city of Pittsburgh, for the last mile delivery operation. So they've been expanding tremendously in the Pittsburgh region. Race Pro Products, this is a California-based manufacturer and distributor of automotive fluids. They purchased a building, a 162,000 square foot building in East Butler in Butler County to serve as a distribution center for the Northeast. They're not only going to be distributing projects, but they're going to be manufacturing windshield washer fluid here, and hopefully at some point some additional automotive fluids here. So it's been a great success story just the last year. Urban, this is the company that operates retailers like Urban Outfitters and Anthropology. They opened a nearly 900,000 square foot distribution center in Indiana County in the northwest part of the region in 2019. That facility employs more than 200 people and ships products across the country. So it's another example of a large distribution center being located in our region. On the real estate side, we have plenty of space available, 11 million square feet of office, 9.5 million square feet of industrial space. We have about 24 available industrial buildings and sites that are served by rail, and more come online all the time. We also have several sites that have river and barge access. So if you need those connectivities and intermodal capabilities, we have several locations in the region that can accommodate that. And we have about 2.5 million square feet of available flex space. So companies that need a combination office warehouse space, there's other opportunities available for that here. We have a total real estate inventory of about 172 million square feet. Our vacancy rate overall is 5.9%. And the quoted asking rents as of fourth quarter, a little under $6 for industrial or warehouse, and a little over $13 for flex. So it's very competitive with a lot of other locations, a lot of other markets in the eastern U.S. And right now, there's about 853,000 square feet of industrial space under construction, mostly conducive to warehouse and distribution, with the higher ceilings and so on. So there's plenty of opportunities here to move into a nice location. And I'm going to turn it over now to Linda to talk a little bit more about workforce.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you everyone for attending today. So looking at all of the hard assets that Mike was sharing in terms of road, rail, air, et cetera, and ground, this all doesn't operate by itself. Obviously, we have a workforce that's over 40,000 strong in transportation and logistics, and we're continuing to build and fuel that pipeline as retirements become a reality, but also as growth demands that we have more workers in this area. And we're doing a couple of things on that front. We have some world-class training centers here in existence, but also under development for training diesel mechanics, for training actually a whole new class of automotive technician, for some of the demands in the autonomous industry, which we know robotics are already being used, of course, in the truck driving fleets. But we're looking to become a premier training center in terms of the autonomous capabilities that technicians will require. We also, like everyone with the pandemic, are faced with a large number of workers who have been displaced by the pandemic. Many of them will be put back to work, will go back to work in the industry where they lost their positions, such as in hospitality and retail. Many of them will not be able to for those jobs that will not be coming back. And so we have very active engagement with workforce partners in the region who have programs in place right now to retrain and reskill many of those workers into some of these occupations where demand is very high and we need to build supply. So that is active in the fulfillment area, CDL training. And so we are in a position where, a year and a half ago, talent was in short supply virtually across every occupational sector. Now we have a bit of an oversupply because of the pandemic, but we're putting them back to work where most needed in our workforce. So we're fortunate to have many of these training providers that were already in operation and to have the partners to put in place the funding and the outreach to be able to reskill these workers into new occupations. Next slide. So, obviously work is a big part of our day, but outside of work is a big part of our day too, especially as we're able to get outside again after the pandemic. And Pittsburgh is known for those of you who have not been able to visit here, it's a beautiful city. It's a beautiful 10-county region. And we have a little bit of everything in the way of mountains, streams, valleys, trails, parks. Our topography is such that you really can do just about everything. It's a 4-season outdoor adventure here, really. Next slide. So as you can see, most people in Pittsburgh Central are within walking distance of a park. We have over 400 miles of biking and hiking trails, but we are a four-season environment here. So right now there's, skiing, boarding, ice skating going on in the summer, boating, year-round access with hiking and biking. And so it's all easily accessible too. It's not as if you have to drive for hours. Really, all of this is accessible within an hour's drive of anywhere within our 10 counties. So it makes it a great place for talent to be able to enjoy their time outside of work. Our restaurant scene, you may have heard, we're not Paris, we're not LA, but many of our chefs left here 5-10 years ago to train among world-class chefs in some of those cities in New York, LA, Paris, London. And then because of our cost of living here and the ability to start a business more quickly here, came back and started restaurants here. We have some chefs that have started 5, 6, 7 restaurants during that period of time, several which are still in operation. And there was demand for it. And so even given the pandemic, we're seeing many of those restaurants succeed and plans for new ones to open. Same thing with breweries. We have over 80 microbreweries here, and they're springing up not just in the center city, Pittsburgh area, but in the surrounding counties as well. Many of you probably are familiar with our sports culture here and our 6-time Super Bowl champs, Pittsburgh Steelers. This Sunday will be a little hard for some of us, but we do pride ourselves on our sports culture that is really supportive of major league franchises, for baseball, the Pirates, for the Penguins, for hockey, football, also professional soccer, and collegiate sports, Division I collegiate sports here as well. So plenty to do and plenty to see at a pretty high level of play as well. Now, a lot of our amenities in the way of arts and culture, whether it's live music, Broadway shows, are clustered in the main business area and downtown Pittsburgh. As you can see, we've got a density of things to do. And as many people say here, they can't believe how much there is to do, but also how affordable it is and how accessible it is. You can, from one of the suburbs of Pittsburgh, drive downtown in 10 minutes, park for $5 or $10 for an evening show, go to a show and dinner and not break the bank. But we also have a great group of cultural amenities outside the Pittsburgh region as well. We are a 10-county region, and we've got outdoor theater and live entertainment in many of the surrounding counties. And again, they're all within an hour's drive. So even if your business is located or your concentration of employees are located in Pittsburgh or in Allegheny County, all of these amenities are easily accessible for just an hour's drive. So kind of have it all inside and outside of work. And now we do have a couple of questions coming in, but I'm going to transition back over to the Q&A period. And if you have any questions outside the webinar, feel free to email Mike or myself, and we're happy to jump on a call and go through some things in more detail. I do see a question here about the Turnpike for Mike. Besides the Pennsylvania Turnpike, are there any other toll roads in the region?
There are some sections of toll roads in the region. There's a Route 43 that comes from north-south from Allegheny County down to Fayette County into West Virginia. That is a toll road. There's also sections of a couple of other roads, Interstate 376, the northern section that connects up to I-80. Just a short section has a toll. And I think the southern beltway, which is partially open, partially under construction, also has a toll on it. But there's no tolls on bridges or tunnels here, which is kind of refreshing.
Okay, we do have another question, but just for all of you, if you do have any questions, just throw them into the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, or in some cases at the top of your screen. Happy to answer them. For Mike, is the airport the only location in the region with a foreign trade zone designation?
There actually is another port. There's some subzones, but there is a foreign trade zone at the RIDC Westmoreland location in Westmoreland County. It's the old, it was a Chrysler plant, a Volkswagen plant, Chrysler, Sony. It's about a 2 million square foot building. There are tenants in part of the building, but that is a foreign trade zone. There's about maybe a little under 1 million square feet of space available in that building now. So, and there's also rail connection to the site too. So it's a great location, especially if you're bringing in goods from overseas.
Okay, and a question on our workforce, which I can take. Is the age of your workforce such that you'll be losing workers pretty soon? Well, like many areas of the country, especially in the sectors of manufacturing or in sectors like transportation and logistics, we do have a large portion of our workforce that would be nearing retirement in the next 5 to 10 years. As I mentioned in the presentation, though, we are prepping for this and have been for several years. We have several really world-class trade schools here that work closely with some of our trucking firms for CDL licensure, as well as for training in various manufacturing areas, training in some of these logistics areas. And so we think that we're going to be well prepared to replace those workers and are filling that pipeline right now. We're also looking for an eye toward the future, as I mentioned, in terms of some of the automotive technician training centers that are under development, have to do with looking forward for a new class of automotive technician. So we're looking to backfill where we may need to with retirements, but also looking toward the future to make sure our pipeline is still globally competitive. Any other questions?
A couple of things I neglected to mention because there's such recent news. The airport has a $1.1 billion modernization project that was scheduled to start last year, but because of the pandemic, it was kind of put on hold. But they just announced this within the last couple of days that that's going to start up again. So it's going to be a terminal modernization, adding parking garages and other multi-use facilities, and opening new space for more development. And that supposedly is going to start construction again, or the project is going to start construction again coming up in the spring and summer. So that's great news to hear. And also on the water side, the Corps of Engineers has allocated $22 million just again, in the last few days to do repair and maintenance work on some of the locks on the Upper Ohio River and within the Pittsburgh region. So that was also great news to hear that some of these locks, which have been in operation for decades and decades, are going to be getting some much needed maintenance and repair. So those are great transportation investment as news that that just came out. So it's good to hear that we're still investing in our transportation infrastructure.
I think that's it for the questions.
Okay, and like I said, this is the second in a series, and if you're interested in others upcoming sessions, we have the next one is they're all on Wednesdays at noon. Next one is on the innovation ecosystem, then financial services, artificial intelligence, remote work, and then extending into energy, tech, advanced manufacturing, and tech talent. So we're thrilled that you joined us today, and we're hoping that you can join us in a future seminar. And thank you again for being with us for this time, and have a wonderful day.